What is up, geeks and geekettes? It's another episode of the Countdown to Geekcast. My name is Steady, and with me on this episode is the man, the myth, the legend. You know him as JC.
Hey, everybody, and happy birthday to the greatest superhero of all time, Superman.
Of course. We also got the man behind the magic, the one and only Joe Garcia.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I hope everybody had a great weekend, a relaxing weekend. It was a nice Sunday to get out and barbecue, which is something that I did.
Nice.
And last but never the least, on loan from the Countdown to WrestleCast, it's the one and only Mike.
What's up, guys? I'm Mike. I love wrestling, and like Cesaro at WrestleMania, love always wins.
I'm just going to let you guys know, Mike is in a good mood for now, but tomorrow there's going to be a lot of ranting and raving on the WrestleCast, for sure, especially from Mike's thing. From all of us. I'm not just Mike, myself, Tommy included. So check that out. After we preview Impact Rebellion, we're going to be talking a lot about how WWE just cannot manage their talent properly. But there we go.
Do they want to manage their talent? I feel like it's like a complete decision that they're just like throwing everything by the wayside nowadays. It's just crazy.
That's a loaded question, Ted.
And I was telling Jericho not to like go off on a tangent here, but like they finally used Billy to her full potential at the Royal Rumble. And it's like, this is a thing that people enjoy. It's fun. It's entertaining. And you can do this nonstop. And we're not going to get tired of it. And here we are just a few months later, and they kicked her to the curb. Sorry, Billy.
Preaching to the choir, man. Preaching to the choir.
Let's just say every wrestling fan out there is counting down to July 14th. That's when the 90-day release is done. And we will be seeing the reuniting of the Iconics very, very soon until then. So I'm
probably with a different name, but
probably with a different name. Iconics with only one eye, because they only trademarked it with two eyes. And
Jessica and Cassie.
Yeah, they're real names. And we'll talk a lot where we predict a lot of these release wrestlers are going to go, where they could end up, and what the future holds for them. So, yeah.
So if you're confused about what we're talking about, JC runs a WrestleCast. It's a weekly wrestling show. They're going to be on YouTube tomorrow live. And they're going to be talking about all the biggest headlines of the week, especially the big drop or the big news story.
Mike, what's the name you have for it now, by the way?
Uh-oh.
For what?
For WWE's release day, because it's April 15th every year now, apparently.
Yeah, so they turned tax day into axe day. And yeah, awesome. I don't mean that to make fun of the people that got released, because obviously that sucks for them, but
yeah,
they all have bright things ahead of them.
Yeah, it's turning into that for WWE. So.
And if you want to catch that show, JC, what time are you starting tomorrow?
Be shortly after NXT, so sometime between 9 and 9:15, we'll start the show, and we'll be live for roughly an hour-ish, depending on how much off a tangent we go. And we'll go live talking about Impact Rebellion and all the releases and what the future holds for them. So join us, Countdown to the Geeks YouTube channel. There is already a link for the show tomorrow, so if you sign up, if you subscribe, get a little notification on that. You can find that on our page, and you'll get notified when we go live, and you can join us. So live chat with us.
There you go. Be sure to like and subscribe. Sure. All right, and we have a great show for everybody. A ton of stuff to talk about in the news today. Some regarding DC, some regarding Marvel, probably a few other things in between. But first, we're here to talk about episode 5 of everybody's new favorite Marvel TV series on Disney Plus streaming service, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We're talking episode 5, and this is the second to the last episode. It just seemed like it came and went just way too quick. We're going to get into it. So this is your spoiler warning for episode 5.
Warning.
Everything from here on out is going to be just ruining the hell out of it. So if you haven't seen the 5th episode, pause this video now, come back to it afterwards, and hear what we got to say. And if you're watching, we want to hear from you. So let us know what your favorite moment was. Did this live up to your expectations? And what are you expecting to happen in the final episode? Drop your fan theories for the finale right here in the comments below. All right. And that's why Mike's here as well, because he's been yearning to
I'm
talk
really
about
disappointed I haven't been able to join.
Falcon and the Winter
Haven't been able to
Soldier.
join you up for the previous one. So if I talk about the previous 4 episodes as well, don't worry about it.
That's fine. I think if you're joining us too, if there's something you want to call back to the previous 4 in the live chat, feel free, because I feel like this series, obviously it's one big movie,
Yeah.
It's really felt that way, and I'm in a way I'm glad it's only 6 episodes, because I feel like they're telling the right amount of story in only 6 episodes, and they're not adding a whole lot of fluff that's just going to kind of kill it. So they're doing just the right amount.
I think if you add it all together, probably the runtime for this, if you put it as a movie, probably be like 2 hours and a half, somewhere around there, maybe a little longer.
Longer than that, but I mean, if you were to cut it down,
probably closer to like 3.5, 4 hours.
Yeah. Hopefully Jericho's not watching, because then Mike's gonna ruin everything for him.
Yeah, Jericho for some reason decided I'm not going to watch any episode until the finale drops, and then he's going to binge the whole thing. But if you ask,
Jericho is the master of the binge watch arts. That's the way he is. He did it with Krypton. He's going to do it with this series. That's just how it goes.
You might be right. You might
respect his game, brother. Respect his game.
If we're going to talk about episode 5, we have to start off with the very beginning of this episode. Johnny Walker, as I call him, is on the run after his public execution of one of the Flag Smashers, and Bucky Barnes and Sam Wilson catch up with him, and what ensues is a pretty epic fight sequence between the 3 of those guys. Mike, you've been waiting the longest to talk about this series. I want to hear from you, man. This was sort of the first big head-to-head between Sam, Bucky, and one John Walker. Did it live up to your expectations? Did you want more of it? What are your thoughts about this entire fight sequence?
Yeah, no, I liked it. And one of the things that I love that this series has done is they just keep drawing like allusions or parallels to other Captain America movies, right? And so this is very reminiscent of Civil War, the 2-on-1 fight. That one was Bucky and, obviously Steve against Iron Man. And this one is Bucky and Sam versus, this Captain America or not Captain America. But it was awesome. I love that they showed a lot more, and they've kind of done this throughout the whole series, a lot more of what Sam is capable of in his suit. Like the one everyone's talking about when he did the little leg sweep with his wings and kind of flipped around. Some really cool stuff. And it was also kind of cool because like in Civil War, I mean, Tony can fight back because he's got the suit, but in this one, Walker can fight back because he's also a super soldier like Bucky, right? He took the serum. I sent you that one TikTok video about how we think he took it. So that's my headcanon from now on. If no one else knows what I'm talking about, just one word, suppository. Anyway, it was a really cool fight, and what they had to do to get that shield off him was also pretty cool. And then still, like after all that, Bucky just kind of leaves it for Sam, and he's like, "All right, I'm out."
Peace.
So that was, but they've kind of done this too the whole series. They give you their action piece, and then they just story and character develop in a really amazing level, and I've enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna come back to that actually, because I think episode 5, one of the longer episodes, right? This was close to
about
50 something minutes. There's always like 10 minutes of credits for some reason in like different languages, by the way. But I'm gonna come back to this because I think
that's
this
a
is
Disney Plus thing. But
I think this is the first episode of the series where I really felt the pace like shift, and it's not a big complaint, but I was just very aware of like, man, there's a lot of talking in between. It's almost like I don't know, Marvel doesn't know the best ways to get from like this point to the next point, but I'm gonna get to that later. JC, drop your opinions on this fight sequence, sir.
Pretty epic. There's a lot of parallels. You mentioned the 2-on-1. I will say that now that Johnny Walker's killed someone with the shield, that seems to be his go-to move. It's always get him down and do that. Like, really, you're telegraphing your whole move. But another thing that it reminded me of when they pulled the shield off of him, it was very, very reminiscent of Infinity War when they almost got the gauntlet off of Thanos. There's a lot of parallels where they're holding him, pulling it away from him. And as we know, if God dang it, what's his face,
Star-Lord.
Star-Lord hadn't gotten all emotional, they would have had it. But it was reminiscent of that, and yeah, I know.
Strange told them.
But
Thank you, Mike. Everybody, get off of Star-Lord's back.
I'm not knocking him. I'm just saying.
I know.
But anyway,
It was the only way.
It was the only way. But that was a hell of a way to break a super soldier's arm. So, but even more so, everyone's wondering why Bucky can't fight this super soldier as well. Why he's getting his ass kicked, how he needed help. And it makes sense. This guy was a trained soldier, 3-time Medal of Honor winner. Like, he learned how to fight. He was huge, muscular. And then you throw a super soldier serum on top of it, he's going to be powerful. But he's riding that emotional state. This serum has made him psycho. And the episode pace, I thought, again, booking the territory. You got to tie up some loose ends for everybody until you get to like the final battle in that final episode. So, but the fight itself was, I think, really good. But I think it ended abruptly enough that we're waiting for more, and I think we're going to get that this coming week. So,
definitely, a lot of great moments. I think the part that you talked about with like the Infinity War Thanos thing is when Bucky and Sam both are like kind of in front of him, and he's like growling in their faces, and they're doing the same, and they're trying to yank it away. So yeah, very.
And they're breaking his arm because they couldn't do that to Thanos, but they broke Walker's arm, which is wow.
I always love to see that in fight sequences. I don't know why, but yeah, that's like the one thing that just put a smile on my face.
Broken limbs.
Mortal Kombat. We're gonna see a lot of that this Friday. Joe, what about you, man? Give us your thoughts on this fight sequence.
Fight sequence, I think, was very telling of Bucky's psyche and where he's at. Everybody says, "Oh, John Walker was so overpowered." Bucky held back a lot in that fight. And I think it goes back to Madripoor. When you see he is very capable of still being able to be that winter soldier type of persona, it can come to light and he can still throw down with the best of them. I think with John Walker, he held back. And I think it was very telling of where he's at mentally, because he said the winter soldier is always a part of him and he works very hard to keep him at bay. I think if he goes and crosses a certain line, he's afraid that the winter soldier is going to take over him, and I think that's the reason why he held back in this particular fight. It wasn't that he wasn't capable of holding his own against John Walker. He doesn't want to resort to becoming the winter soldier in order to defeat his foe. So I think that says a lot about Bucky's humanity, and where he's at right now. And then Sam, he held his own too against John Walker for being an underpowered, just regular guy, that he just has wings and he has that suit with the little jetpack. He's not a super soldier, and he was able to get in some good knocks and, be able to deliver some blows to Mr. Walker. And I was like, Sam was able to hold his own quite well. He surprised me there. Another thing that was kind of surprising to me was how easy it was for John Walker to tear the wings off of the Falcon.
He struggled for a bit. I don't know if it was as easy as
the wings.
You might think.
The wings, for all intents and purposes, are made out of, I guess, vibranium.
Not vibranium.
I don't know.
Yeah.
No, and I think that might lead. So it's military. They're military made. So
and they're bulletproof.
They're bulletproof technology, if anything.
Yeah, they're bulletproof, and they have nanotechnology instilled in them. But to me, I always thought, okay, well, maybe they have some, vibranium alloy or something in them. Apparently not. They're just, really thin sheets of metal that are, for all intents and purposes, able to deflect bullets and stuff, but they can still be torn and taken off of the jetpack. Yeah. So we'll say that was the end of jetpack version 1. There was a lot of things that happened in this episode that are going to set things up for the next one that are going to be very interesting. And we did have an introduction of possibly one new super, and we got an introduction of a familiar villain into this. So we'll get into that in a bit here, but it was very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. And just to kind of piggyback off of everything you guys already said, that was actually my favorite moment. Walker pulling the wings off of Bucky, because in a lot of ways, That's like,
Oh, he pulled the wings off of Sam, not Bucky, but
sorry, Sam. I meant
Yeah.
Sam.
Oh yeah.
That's like taking someone's powers away, like completely. And that's powering down Iron Man's suit. That's taking away Hawkeye's bow and arrow. Like,
It's taking
just-
John Cena's colored shirts and armbands.
Taking the heat
That's-
lamp away from the Fiend. Yeah, you know.
Exactly.
it's such a strong statement to
Mm.
ground the Falcon by ripping his wings. So that was my favorite moment. But yeah, pretty epic battle. Love the way it was choreographed. Loved all the similarities to previous fight sequences, like Cap and Iron Man and Civil War. I mean, all those things. It's all there, and I loved it. John Walker goes to trial later on in this episode. I thought that was a pretty powerful moment. Something that we're seeing way too much of these days is trials on TV. And then Bucky takes off to Sokovia to go arrest one Baron Zemo with the help of the Wakandans. Did anybody think he was going to pull that trigger? Because Zemo sort of went against his word and basically screwed him over. Mike, what about you?
No, I mean, I didn't really think he would actually kill him. The scene right after he drops all the bullets, that was, I mean, I didn't realize that's what the scene was, but that was one of the first promos for Falcon and Winter Soldier, is just the bullets dropping, and you kind of see now where it is. But I kind of piggyback off what Joe said earlier. It's kind of his humanity now. I mean, Bucky's kind of this whole series been trying to separate himself from the Winter Soldier. And like you said, you know, in Madripoor, he didn't really want to go back there, but they had to do it for the mission. And so I think this is kind of just more him toward getting rid of that side of him, you know, just doing the right thing, letting the I can never pronounce it correctly, the Dora Milaje
there you go.
come and get him. There you go.
Well done.
When I don't think about it, I just say it without thinking. You know, to come get him. But what's kind of surprising in that moment too was you're like, oh, okay, they're going to take him back to Wakanda for justice. I'm like, we're taking him back to the raft, and you're like, that's going to lead to something.
That didn't work last time. Like I feel like,
Right.
Can you take him back to Wakanda, lock his ass up, and then put him in Black Panther 2?
Cryo
Everyone just
breathing.
laughing at him or something like that. You know, I mean, come
Seriously.
on.
Well,
Yeah.
I wonder how it works, right? Because they don't allow anybody who's not from Wakanda in. I mean, they obviously made exceptions, but
Mhm.
for very important reasons. So, what about prisoners? Would you lock up a prisoner in Wakanda? Because you still don't want prisoners to know exactly where your country is located. I mean, it's
That's
hidden for a
true.
reason.
It's one of those
Unless-
put a hood over their eyes and then just take them over there kind of thing, I guess. I don't know. But,
Yeah.
you know, but my thought was like, why did they want to hunt Zemo down in the first place? Like, why was it important to them to hunt him down if they were going to take him back to the same prison he broke out of?
They
Wouldn't you want to do that to
Yeah.
put him back in the same prison, in their own prison? Like, we can do this better kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was just knowing that, because I mean, obviously he was the one that was responsible for the death
death
of
of
King
their king.
T'Chaka. You know, when he framed Bucky. So I guess for them it was just knowing he was in a jail and taking him back to a prison. Because I thought the same thing. Like I just said, I thought, you know, my initial thought was going to take him back, and then like, oh, we're going to take him to the raft. So I guess they just want to make sure that someone who has committed crimes against Wakanda stays in prison, in whatever system, you know, like I said, not
Okay.
necessarily close, but
yeah.
also I think that's leading things obviously down the road. So
Okay.
yeah.
And to be fair, like Zemo was in that prison for a long time. It took the assist from Bucky just to get him out. As long as nobody else comes and tries to, you know, give him a hand, I think he's pretty much
Foreshadowing.
staying put where he's going to be.
or nobody in charge of the raft decides to make it.
But the thing is, with Baron Zemo, we've seen how resourceful and how intelligent he is. He's never gonna be put away for very long. If he wants to get out, they're gonna find a way to bust him out. He can get out. The guy's pretty resourceful dude, man. We've seen that already out of him.
I think him having this freedom that he's had, being out, and some stuff off screen. He's probably set up some sort of contingency, some connections in case he ever goes back in again, where he'll be able to escape easily.
You know,
so I don't think this is the last we've seen of him in the MCU.
He's a smart dude. I think what he wanted to do is he was using them to get out, and right away they go to Madripoor, which seemed very interesting to him for other reasons than to find the super soldier serum. I think he was wanting to see what's going on, what type of contacts, you know, he can still have, what kind of, I guess, communication he can still have at that point with the underground community. Like you said, JC, I think he was setting things up from the very beginning. He, you know, they think they have the power over Zemo and that they control him. And I think it was the opposite. I think he's exactly where he wants to be, you know? He's that supervillain kind of dude, you know?
It will be interesting to find out, you know, does he have a contingency plan set up? Maybe Sharon Carter.
I was about to say, what if Sharon Carter's working as a double agent?
Who knows what she's doing?
AKA the power broker? You mean the power broker?
I mean,
it's a definite possibility, man. It wouldn't surprise me in the least.
Isn't it interesting how nobody has seen the power broker, but yet the power broker has so much pull and power? You know, it's kind of like this figure that you never see, but you know is always there. You know?
Oh yeah,
right. You'll say it's like the Dread Pirate Robert. It just kind of gets passed on. It's not actually one person this whole time. Just kind of passed on from underground person to underground person.
You know, one of the things that I thought was very interesting too was the interaction between Bucky and Zemo. I think Zemo went there because he knew he wanted to be captured. It was time for him to go back. You know, it was part of the play from the very beginning. You know, this was his end game, so to speak. He has to go with the plan. So he's going to put himself in a situation where he can be captured. And then I think what Bucky was doing, showing him the gun and showing him the bullets, is kind of showing Zemo, you don't have control over me. I'm not the Winter Soldier. I'm in control of myself, you know? And then Zemo looked at Bucky and he's like, you know, I release you. You don't owe me anything. I've already crossed my name off the list. We're good. You know, so I think that's him and Bucky kind of made their peace, so to speak, in the end, that they forgave one another. You know, it's time to move on.
Zemo's not supposed to be this charming. He's supposed to be a
very
bad guy.
charming, dude.
I'm not supposed to like Zemo this much. Like, stop it.
Was
Disney
it the dance sequence?
Marvel?
Depends on the actor.
It's everything.
The
it's
dance,
everything.
Boom, boom.
He's so damn
he
cool.
definitely played him,
Zemo is a people person. Zemo is dangerous.
He's not
when you let him out.
Said he's going to join the cult.
He's dangerous, dude.
Zemo cult. That's what's going on.
He doesn't need superpowers, Ted. He doesn't need any superpower, anything. He's himself.
I know that. I'm totally with you on that. I was ready for Zemo to be this like
this douche that you hate.
Well, resilient but brutal villain. Like he doesn't really take mercy on anybody. No, he doesn't take mercy on anyone, and he doesn't leave survivors in his wake. You know. And he's a brilliant fighter. He can go toe to toe with Cap for a while and all that stuff. But we're seeing a character who has charisma and a lot of likability, and he has respect for his foes. Like, I don't know. I like what they're doing with him, obviously, and Daniel Bruhl's playing it brilliantly. I didn't expect when you release Zemo, you take him off his leash, you know, you give him an entire series to go off. I didn't expect him to be so still held back in a way.
You know what? I got something for you guys. I just thought of it right now. What if the power broker is actually Zemo, bro? How badass would that be? He's like, what do you call that guy that pulled an El Chapo? You know, pulling strings from prison.
Yeah,
it's Wolverine.
Through a hole in the floor in that one episode.
Yeah, for real, bro. I'm just saying, maybe he's a power broker pulling strings from prison.
If he had a motorcycle tunnel ready to go to get him out of there.
Yeah, bro.
I could very well see it. Maybe that's why he's been cool, calm, and collected, because he's setting everything up. I could definitely see it.
You know, and Sharon's feeding him information. You know, she's thinking it's a power broker. It's Zemo. He played everybody, man. It would not surprise me, dude. He's slick. He's slick.
He's been in prison for how long?
Jeez,
plus 5 years? Because you have to think, hey, it's however long it's been plus 5 years. Yeah. The man's had time to think.
Yeah.
So, you know.
He's got nothing but time, JC.
So,
the first time we saw him, what was he doing? playing chess because he's smart.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go. Next up in the episode one, Sam Wilson heads back to go see Isaiah Bradley, and he's holding the shield this time. And Isaiah wants nothing to do with it. You know, he's bitter, broken. He's been used by the country and the government, and he's never going to change his mind about how the government, the military, or the country operates.
Well, when you get
But
put in prison
can't
for 30
blame-
years, it kind of changes a man. You know,
you can't blame
Maybe
the guy.
people, yeah.
I was just about to say you can't
It's-
blame the guy, but he's not open to anything ever changing. He thinks it's always going to be that bad. But I do love the discussion. I do
Well-
love that Sam has this encounter because he knows he will never get to that point. He knows, Sam knows he's never going to be hopeless about the situation, that there's always some good that can be done. At least that's in my mind, that's what I feel like he's seeing. He's seeing this brick wall. He can't break through it, but he's never going to get to that point, get down to that level. He's always going to be optimistic about the future. He's always going to want to do good. He always thinks there's a chance for hope and change. And I think that does help in his decision making towards the end of the episode when we all see that he's more than likely to take on this Captain America mantle. JC, you had something to say.
I mean, I don't blame Isaiah Bradley for feeling that way. I mean, look
Mhm.
at the state of the world now. Look at the same thing. I mean, a lot of the issues that soldiers back then, I mean,
Today.
Muhammad Ali, today, even back then, but think of Muhammad Ali. He famously did not accept being drafted. And he famously said, "Why am I going to go fight? No Viet Cong never called me the N-word. You know, no one ever did this. Why am I going to go fight for a country that's going to treat me like a second-class citizen?" And Isaiah Bradley's been scorned. He had to deal with that for so many years. And in his mind, he may still be right. We're still having so many of the same conversations we had years ago. My wife and I, Tina and I, just finished watching the Real World Homecoming. 29 years after the very first Real World season, the cast gets back together, and some of the conversations around race are exactly the same. The same type of things. The one person that just doesn't want to, I guess, deal with it or understand it thinks, well, I don't have to deal with this, so I'm not affected by it. But everybody is on some level. So I see Isaiah's reasoning, and it's a very interesting take, and this is a dilemma Sam's going to have to deal with. They're never going to make a black man Captain America, and no black man in their right mind should accept that.
Powerful.
Very powerful. And I think there's a lot of people out there that probably agree with that statement. So,
Before we get to the other guys, he brought up the Red Tails, which is a fantastic underrated movie that I actually went back and watched like a few months ago because
great
I
soundtrack, by the way, from Daft Punk.
Yes, and I came across the historical
RIP.
context.
Damn it. Yeah.
I came across the historical context in a documentary, so I'm like, I remember that movie. I need to go back and watch it with this newfound knowledge, and it still holds up. Red Tails with a stellar cast. I mean, everybody in that movie is just fantastic, but they were still one of the best fighter pilot crews or divisions in that war, and they still didn't have the respect of a lot of their countrymen, a lot of their peers.
That's actually one of the mascots a lot of people were pushing the Washington football team to have when they had to drop their previous one.
That would be massive.
That would be awesome. Unfortunately, some guy in Virginia decided to buy up a whole bunch of trademarks, and now Washington doesn't want to pay the money for them.
God.
Hey, blame Dan Snyder for not getting ahead of it. But anyway, that's another conversation. So,
Man, oh man.
Yeah.
Joe, what about you? This conversation between Sam and Isaiah, very heated, very powerful, very passionate from both ends. But what were your takeaways from it?
First of all, my takeaway is, how can somebody that's not the same color as you have gone through what you've gone through understand where you're coming from? That's why he was, I think, at this point, he was more forthcoming with talking with Sam and really talking with them. And Sam tells him, don't give me that angry old man bit, and this and that. And he's like, I need to make this young man understand my story. And that's what Sam was there for. He wanted to hear Isaiah's story. He wasn't here to confront Isaiah. He was here to understand him, and he has to be able to tell his story to somebody else who can understand what he's going through, which is another African American, and Sam kind of going through the same thing as well. So I think they were kindred spirits in a way where they've both been kind of jaded a little bit by the government. So I think at this juncture, Isaiah was more forthcoming and letting him inside, his history to tell him this is what happened to me. But Isaiah made a really good point. Captain America did the same thing Isaiah did, right? He broke out, and he went against his orders to go and save his countrymen, right? Soldiers that were captured. Isaiah did the same damn thing. Captain America was commended. Isaiah was put in jail for 30 years and experimented on. They even hid the letters that he had, coming in from his special lady. He never got to see, until the very end, until somebody took pity on him, felt sorry for him, and helped him escape, and really just wrote him off as he had passed away. And, he went into obscurity and he's in hiding now. And I think at some point in time, we might see Isaiah, but I think Isaiah might be the scapegoat in a way, where in order to make things personal, because you're going to have the narrative now where you have the introduction of Miss Fontaine, then you have this other aspect going on with Mr. Walker. They're going to form an alliance of some kind. And what better way to go ahead and get at Sam than to make this very personable, and I think Isaiah might be used as a tool to incite some type of division there, to entice Sam to come out and start fighting Mr. Walker, because it looks like Mr. Walker is going down this dark path. But I think Isaiah is the key here. If you want to make it personal, more so than just going at Sam and his family or anything of that nature, you go at Isaiah, because Sam feels for Isaiah because of everything he's had to deal with, and Isaiah's very smart, intelligent, and he's forthcoming with a lot of things that are on the forefront of today's society. Where have we moved as a society, as a nation, when we still see these struggles that we have with racism in America? And it's not just here, it's all over the world. It's like, even though we think we've come a long way, we still have a long way to go. And the only way that people are going to be able to get past this is they truly have to try to understand one another. And it goes beyond just the color of the skin, So I think it was a very powerful message, meaning, and I think it was one of the best parts of this whole, episode.
Yeah, I completely agree. It also leads to one of the things Sam says towards the end of the episode. You got to stop looking to other people to tell you who you are.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love that. And I think it's one of the major takeaways from that conversation.
Yeah.
Mike, what's up, Mike?
Well, I want to bring something up, and that kind of brings it back to what we were just talking about. But if you remember early in the MCU, Gary Shandling was playing this congressman, real slimy guy in Iron Man 2, and then they bring him back in Winter Soldier to be the one who was in league with Hydra, and eventually by the end of, they kind of root him out and find out he's one of those kind of corrupt politicians.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of like the parallel now that they brought this new guy in. You were talking about the trial of Walker, but I don't know who the actor's name is, but he accepted the shield from Sam to put in the museum. And he said, "You made the right decision, son."
Mm-hmm.
Then he introduces Walker, when they bring back Captain America. And then when Walker goes and kills the guy, he's on the trial, like talking him down, like, how dare you do this? You embarrassed America. You're lucky, So the whole time he's playing all the sides to look good, to bring back Captain America. So I thought that, that was an interesting piece again, now coming back to Sam and, Isaiah not being able to trust the government. They tried to do good things as soldiers, and they were basically lied to, taken away. Isaiah obviously jailed, like y'all said, for trying to save fellow soldiers. But it was also kind of because if his story got out, then they would have found out about all the experimenting that they were doing on, the black soldiers. So it wasn't just about going about orders; it was keeping that whole thing under wraps. And then, like with Sam, it's they just straight out said it. They wouldn't let a black man be Captain America, and so as much as Steve, his character embodied all these great things about America. He would not, we know he would never agree with all the stuff that's going on afterwards, and he would have been on. I mean, he chose Sam, at the end of the end game, but they wanted their prototypical American, looking Captain America, the blue eyes, blonde hair, and
white guy.
Y'all talked about it, and y'all talked about in early episodes. The serum, makes better what you already are.
Mm-hmm.
So, for Steve, he was the little guy who fought everyone because it was right, and it made him a better man. All these other ones like Red Skull and now John Walker, they don't have those. They may want to do good things, but it doesn't seem to come from a good place and good intention. So it's just made him, more desirable of getting the recognition of being, because that was his whole thing before he took it, right? He was given the mantle of Captain America, and he wanted like the power and the respect that came with it. And he expected to go into places and go, "Do you know who I am?" To that one Flag Smasher a couple episodes ago. And that's what he wanted. He didn't want to do good things in service of his country and the world. He wanted to be that position of power and have people admire him. And, you're kind of like you said, he's just going crazy now.
He didn't want to earn the respect. He expected it to be given to him,
right? Exactly.
Based on what Steve Rogers had done. He felt entitled to that.
Right.
And I think I said it last week. There's a reason they did their vetting before they chose Steve Rogers as Captain America. And that's really what it was. It was where you are here in your heart. And Steve Rogers before the serum, he never would have sent his ass to war, obviously. But he had the heart, he had the drive, and that's why they chose him.
He always wanted to help others. He wanted to do something selfless acts for other people because he knew what it felt like to be picked on.
Yeah, exactly. And Walker, on the other hand, was a career soldier who's maybe a 3 Medal of Honors, but they allude to it. What questionable stuff has he done?
Yeah,
and that you can't have that. So they let's just fit. They don't make him like they used to. That's the kind of thing you can say there. They don't make Captain America like they used to.
No, they do, and that's kind of the point of this whole series because it's Sam.
Mm-hmm.
Sam has been doing exactly what Steve would do. With Kylie, he was trying to talk her down at first. And he was like, "Look, I understand why you're fighting, but you're doing it the wrong way." I think that's a very Steve Rogers. I know we think of him as just like Winter Soldier and dropping in the ship and beating up terrorists, but he always was looking for the greater good and trying to do things the right way. And you see that in Sam. His history as as kind of a mentor or to help soldiers that have come back from war, kind of like a counselor.
Yeah,
you see that in what he does, and I think it's fitting that Sam is the only non-powered person. Like Joe said, he lost his wings. You've taken away his thing, but at the core, he's still Sam, and he is the one that Captain America chose. And I think they've done a good job throughout this series of kind of highlighting that. And hopefully, in this last episode, he reemerges as a Captain America.
I think Sam realized one thing in this whole episode. For all the power that he thinks he doesn't have, and the person that he thinks that he's not, he is all those things. Because I think one of the very powerful moments in this whole episode was he finally understood, you know what, today I'm going to call in all these favors that my family is owed in order to save my family's heritage, which is that boat, and there's power in the people. And the thing that Zemo does so well is something that Sam does so well. They're people person. They know how to talk with people. They understand human beings, on a very, very intimate level. You just need to be able to sometimes just understand and talk with people, regardless of where you come from or, what you're entitled to or what you are. There's always a way to be able to communicate with another person. You just got to understand where they're coming from, and I think that's what Sam is starting to finally figure out in this episode. He's starting to figure out who he is, and there's power in family. There's power in friends that you have to call on to help you. I think he understands now that he's not alone. I think a lot of this Winter Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Sam felt like alone, like he was by himself. He didn't have anybody to help him. He didn't have anybody in his corner, because that's what the show was alluding to. Couldn't get approved for a loan. Everybody just knew him as the Avenger. Hey, you're the Falcon. You're the guy with the wings and this and that. But beyond that, he felt alone. Now I think he's starting to really understand, you know what? I'm not alone. I got all these people. And that's where his power is coming from. It's coming from a good place, from family, from friends.
Yep.
And it's something that he took from the Flag Smashers. They're going around the world, helping people, giving people medication and stuff like that. And they're getting the support of the community. They're harboring them, they're giving them resources when they ask for it. And to Sam, it's like, it's such a simple thing to think of, to consider, and we can do something similar in our own community, who we all know very well. Why are we trying to do things by ourselves all the time? His sister wanted to do things by herself initially, didn't really want his help about the boat or any decisions regarding it. And here they go, pulling this community together, just reaching out their hand, asking for assistance, and it paid off for them. A big chunk of this episode was just dedicated to the back and forth between Sam and Bucky and working on this boat, and Bucky is sort of going through his feelings about what he needs, hitting on Sam's sister.
Don't be flirting with my sister.
Very funny.
I feel like this whole sequence was one of the more powerful parts of the whole series thus far. It got Sam back to his roots, to understand where he's coming from, and to kind of have that passion again, work with his hands, and kind of take a step back from everything he's been dealing with. And for me, it was the first time we've really seen Bucky smile since he came back as the Winter Soldier.
Right.
Everything has always been serious. He stares a lot, but for him to actually get to enjoy the simple life, to get back to being on his home soil, working around people, working on something, being a handyman, well, a hand in a metal handyman, I guess you could say, which was cool because Sam needed the damn help, to be honest with you. But I think that got him to appreciate the better things in life. Like, if you're about to go into some big battle, what are you really fighting for? And I think that got Sam and Bucky to understand, what are we really fighting for here?
Yeah.
And that's the people around us, the people, our fellow citizens, our fellow humans, or, everything like that. So I think that's a really good way for them to reset, get their minds right for what's sure to be a crazy epic finale in New York. So, and I think it's gonna be really good. So
there you go. For Bucky, it's also powerful in the moment where he tells Sam that he owes him an apology, because to Bucky, it was as easy as Steve gives you a shield. You say, okay,
he chose you.
It's mine now. Right. He chose you, and you're just going to run with it, and everything's going to be okay. You're Captain America now. To Bucky, it's taking on the mantle and doing your thing. But he going through all of this, running into Isaiah Bradley. It takes on a completely different complicated situation for Sam to take on the mantle. And it's a much bigger task. It's a much bigger job. It's much bigger shoes to fill for Sam than it is for Bucky to take on the mantle.
Yeah.
And I love the discussion between the two of them. It's fantastic. I can't wait to see what happens next. We know Sam is going to take on this mantle. I can't wait to see what Wakanda put together for Sam.
What's in the box?
Pretty epic.
Well, it was a favor that Bucky asked the Dora Milaje.
Yes.
Hey, by the way, I got one more favor to ask you guys. And boom, you see this little suitcase kind of thing, and Sam didn't open it right away. He just kind of left it there. He's like, I don't know if I'm ready for this yet. And I thought it was great with him and Bucky really coming to terms and understanding one another. There was a trust factor that was built between them. Right then and there, they became at that point really good friends, They understand each other. You're here to help me when I'm in need. You got my back. That's what that whole scene was, showing that they have each other's back beyond just being thrown into, a mission. They actually are friends now, and they have each other's back. They understand one another. And then boom, you get that time after he's been, Sam's been out there training with the shield and whatnot. The episode is him looking at that little tache case, and then you just see him push his thumb to the little pad, and we don't see the reveal. We gotta give you something to watch for the next
give him
week.
a tease for the finale.
Yeah. And you know what? I was laughing the whole time because I'm like, I never ever stop when those credits roll. I'm always watching. I'm always watching.
Me too.
And then I'm like, oh, they finally have an end credit scene, And the first thing I thought about is, man, I better say something because Jericho, as soon as the end credits run, he's just gonna stop the whole episode and he'll be like, what are y'all talking about?
No, exactly. Poor Jericho. He's always missing the credits. Poor guy.
Gotta stay, Jericho. You should know this already.
We know this is Sam's arc. Sam's arc, taking the shield, putting on whatever's in that box, heading over to New York because the Flag Smashers have already been located in New York by one Joaquin Torres, who, if you read the comics, they might actually pull a little something at the end of the series.
Well, Sam did gift him his broken wings. He said,
yes,
you can have it. It's yours.
So they might do something really cool.
Mike did it. These broken wings.
Learn to fly again. I really hope they do that, and I hope he gets brought into MCU movies because we've talked a lot about representation. We got really hyped for Supergirl. In the DC movies, they chose a Hispanic actress. I think it would be really cool for this guy to kind of come into the movies too when we get to the next Avengers movie. To get a Hispanic guy in there as the Falcon, right there with what we assume to be the new Captain America with Sam.
Yep.
I think that'd be really cool if they brought him into the movie.
Yeah, well, they're a trio, Mike, so it would make sense for them to have somebody else enter the fray that would complete their trio because it was Sam, it was Bucky, and it was Captain America, and now Captain America's not there, and it's just Bucky and Sam. There's someone missing.
And honestly, I kind of wonder after this series how much Bucky's gonna be around himself because his arc seems to be to get to a regular life, to get away from that Winter Soldier. So I'd be really interested to see if Bucky stays around. Does he come back for Avenger movies? Or, in the next episode,
what did the Dora Milaje tell
talk
him
about him going into his life?
Does Sam trust him enough to let him date his sister?
Oh,
that's the new level of trust here,
No, I'm saying, what did the Dora Milaje tell him, Mike?
In the first episode. So.
Remember that, Mike? What did the Dora Milaje tell Bucky?
Oh, yeah, it seemed him and Io had some... It was Io the one that showed up. They seem to know each other pretty well. I know she helped him. Yeah. Get over that, but I don't know. He's got a type, I think.
Yeah, no, there's a friendship there. I think she understands where he's coming from, and he understands their ways. There's a very deep respect there. And I think what she was telling him is, you can always return to Wakanda, but stay low for right now. There's some things that she has to go in and kind of smooth over because they know that he broke out Zemo and all this, but he helped recapture him. So she has to smooth that all out. But I think the door was left open for Bucky to be able to go back to Wakanda. So maybe he returns back to Wakanda as the White Wolf, gives back the arm, and just resorts to the simple life and, just try to be calm and normal,
Yeah, it could be.
Unless he's back in Black Panther too, because he's always welcome there, obviously.
Yeah.
But,
I was wondering about that. Now that things have kind of changed, that might be.
Well, we don't even know how many years are going to go by between the first Black Panther and when the second one comes out. Like, what's the time gap there? We don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be interesting how they rewrite what they were initially planning to.
Exactly. It would be interesting to see if we do see Bucky return back to Wakanda, and he's been there for an X amount of years. And then you see this happen in part 2,
Right.
I got one last question. Well, kind of like two. I'll just mention the first one, and then I have one last question to ask you guys. Number one, we did get a brand new character, Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, played by one Julia Louis Dreyfus from.
I was waiting for the
Seinfeld
Elaine
fame.
dance. I was waiting for the Elaine dance. We didn't get it though. The thumbs in the foot.
Oh God.
Great to see Julia in the
I was very
MCU.
excited.
Yeah.
Do the
Unfortunately-
dance, JC. Can you do the dance? How did she go?
Do it, man.
But I did read though that she was supposed to debut in Black Widow, and this is one of the casualties of the Black Widow movie getting pushed back, is that she was actually supposed to be a part of that. So obviously she's Russian. This kind of played both. I mean, her story arc in the comics, I believe, is that she's a Russian spy. She infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D., was kind of playing as a double agent, and then Fury got the position over her.
Love interest of
outed.
Nick Fury, should I say, as well.
That's right. Yeah, love interest of Fury. So awkward, So that'll be interesting to see. But I like the casting. It's great to see her. She played it pretty well. She's like throwing every other name in the book out there. Reminded me of Dot from Animaniacs, Princess Angelina, Contessa Louisa. So, but I liked it. I like how she just kind of subtly left it. Hey, call me if you need anything. And this is kind of setting up the villain arc for Walker.
She did do something very interesting there with Johnny Walker there, with Mr. Walker.
Was like, I get it. I understand your side of it kind of thing. She
No.
Think
About what the end credit scene was and what did she tell him? She kind of seeded that mentality in his head because she goes, oh, by the way, the shield, that's kind of a gray area.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Nobody
yeah.
really
Doesn't belong
owns
to
the
government.
shield.
Yeah.
In other words, you don't actually need the shield to wield the shield. That's kind of a gray area.
That's true, but if you're going to put up his homemade Captain America shield from his Medal of Honor medals, by the way, which is like, wow, that's pretty powerful. He's melting those down against the vibranium shield that presumably Sam's going to have. I'm going with what Sam's got. Just not out there.
Just a little bit.
Here's the thing, though. Here's the equalizer in this whole bit. We don't know what this shield is made out of. We're going to assume it's steel or what have you.
Sure.
But the one thing that Mr. Walker has on Sam is Sam isn't a super soldier. Mr. Walker is a superhuman that has superhuman strength. So he still got some power behind that shield. It's no joke,
Yeah, but if you're going shield versus shield, unless that shield's made of adamantium, I don't know if it's going to stand a chance.
We don't know. We don't know.
No, but
We're
he's
about
just
to
sharpening
find
the
out.
edges for his specialties.
Yeah, exactly. That's just one
blade.
move. 5 moves of doom here.
Well, you know what? Ted would be thrilled if they put a finish him on the shield,
Do
Finish
it.
him.
Do it.
Here's what I would love to see. I know he's making the shield himself and he's putting everything. I would like for him on the outer edge of the red to have it kind of splattered red, so it looks like it's blood all the way around the edge. That's pretty distinguishable for John Walker. We're going to be walking around with it, just blood all over the place.
Yeah.
That would distinguish where his mind is, and that was like, hey, these are the blood of my victims. These are the blood of the people. I mean,
yeah, it'd be interesting.
He becomes like U.S. agent or something.
It's either going to be, was it Super
In the comics,
Patriot or U.S. agent? I don't know what persona he's going to take on.
Edward
They don't
Snowden
all-
with the super soldier. He's going to be in Russia, basically. That's kind of how it goes. So.
They don't always need a nickname. Scarlet Witch didn't have a nickname for how many years? So yeah,
Sure.
we're good with that. Last question I'm gonna ask you guys is, what is Sharon Carter playing at? She's calling Batroc the Leaper on the phone. She's sending him to go up against most likely somewhere in the final episode going to go up against our heroes. What is Sharon Carter playing at? Mike, what do you think?
I don't know, and it's real interesting because if you think back again to Winter Soldier, Batroc the Leaper the first time was hired by Fury, we find out, to infiltrate that ship because he was trying to find out what was going on within S.H.I.E.L.D. that he didn't know.
Right.
So again, Sharon said she brought Batroc into this one in the very first episode in that mission that Sam interrupted, and she's calling him again. I know I've read a lot of things online where people kind of want to see her turning evil because basically she helped the heroes but didn't get a pardon to come back, basically. But I honestly think it might be kind of a double agent thing, and I think she still may be working for Fury or for that kind of part of. I know they're setting up Sword up in the sky, but I think she might be his connection. Kind of into the Madripoor, the darker side of things, and that she's still, I guess, Shield, if you will, or Sword now, but just undercover. So
I
don't know. I kind of hate to see her go bad because I feel bad for her overall story of like she fell for Captain America, who always loved her aunt. She kind of made out with him once. He's like, "No, I'm gonna go back in time and get your aunt." So
yeah, he did.
but we'll see. Yeah. No, still the best ending ever, but I mean, just for her.
So this is the first time I think anybody's brought up Fury on this show covering this series, and now you mention it. If a twist was to be Nick Fury as a power broker, or a version of Nick Fury as a power broker, I'd be like,
Skrull Fury.
I was gonna say Skrull Fury.
Skrull Fury is a power broker. Sure, why not? I can see that. Fury
Well,
trying
Secret
to control.
Invasion is one of their Disney Plus shows coming in
It
in a
is.
year or
It
two.
is. I have some news about that one too later on, so I'll talk about that in a second. JC, what is Sharon Carter getting at? Because Batroc has very big motivations to take out our heroes, and so bringing him into the mix it sounds like it's very risky. What is she playing at?
I think ultimately she wants the part and she wants to go home. But I think what she's doing is she's setting herself up to the point no matter who wins, she's good. That's what it's about. She's calling in these favors on one side, but she may secretly be passing intel on what's going to happen to Sam, to Bucky. We may see that in the finale. So she's kind of playing it to where, like, hey, if the good guys win, I get my part and I'm out. If the bad guys win, well, they know they can trust me. So she's kind of doing the Benjamin Franklin thing here. Now, no matter what happens at the end of that fight, she's good. You don't get the reference. Benjamin Franklin was a double agent. So whether we want our independence or not, Ben Franklin was good. I'm just throwing that out there. A little history trivia for you guys. So,
Awesome.
Yeah. So, but that's kind of where I think it is. She's trying to make sure she's good. She's safe. Ultimately, deep down, does she want to go home? Obviously. She's kind of been the lone person out of everything who's been kind of stuck, labeled a criminal. And that's not right, really, when you think about it. So,
I have a slightly different theory. I'm going to drop it in a minute, but Joe, I want to hear from you first. What is Sharon Carter playing at?
She's just playing at the best interest of herself. When you play both sides of the coin, you see both sides of the field. At the end of the day, there's something there that interests her. Maybe she has a deal to obtain something. You need a distraction in order to get what you want. So I think all these guys are just pawns in her grand scheme here. She's very good at what she does. She even is playing Sam and Bucky, and she plays her parts really well. So I think what she's doing is she's just giving this guy and Carly what they need to go ahead and create the distraction she needs to do something seedy. She's got something going on, and that's why she's playing both sides. I'm sure she's like, well, Sam and Bucky can take care of this chump, so they're going to send him packing. But I think something else is going on. Maybe the distraction is to go ahead and have this chaos ensue so they can actually obtain another asset. Maybe that asset might be Carly, or it could be something along the lines of, if you need to create a super soldier serum, we do have a super soldier in Isaiah. Who's protecting him?
Nobody.
Exactly. So if you have a distraction going on, you can easily go and get the dude and leave. Who's going to notice? Who's going to say something? And by the time you find out,
you think Sharon has the information on where that guy really is?
If Bucky knows where he's at, there's a good assumption that a lot of other people know where this dude is at as well.
I could see that.
Zemo would be the only person I can think of that knows where that guy is at, and that's how Bucky got the information.
Didn't Sharon have access to security as far as being able to see this surveillance from a satellite? So she knows where these guys are at all times. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out, let me keep dibs on this dude and see where he's at. Oh, okay. Well, look at there. This is what I need. So I'm just saying,
Yeah.
she's a pretty smart cookie. So you got a distraction going on, and you need a super soldier serum, and you don't have any more of the asset. You need to obtain a new one. You know?
Here's my final theory on one Sharon Carter. I think, and I have zero evidence of this. This is just a twist that I could possibly see coming. I think she's in deep undercover, and
I don't think so.
for her character to be this deep in the criminal underworld, selling real paintings on the black market, and she's invested in these weapon transfers or whatever they're also doing. I think the reason why she would go to those lengths is for some sort of deep undercover operation, and maybe the target is whoever this power broker is, because even though like the Flag Smashers are sort of the antagonists in a way of this show, the power broker they're still afraid of. Like they're not in partnership with the power broker. They're sort of like taking loans, and if you can't pay them back, your ass is in trouble.
Your Stewie from Family Guy is going to come after you.
Yeah, they're asking for things, and they're making they're in his debt. But if they don't pay afterwards, they're also in trouble. So it
because
seems
the
like
power brokers everywhere, Ted. Even though the Flag Smashers have a following,
and you're not wrong. And so for me, a great story twist that we probably don't see in this season or in this series, because one episode left. We have some loose ends to tie up with our characters and our cast that we're already invested with. So I don't think this is something that we'll see in this series, but let's at least find out who the power broker is. And then maybe we find out Sharon is actually doing this extremely deep undercover mission to either find out the identity or just to take down the power broker, because it sounds like, from what everybody's been saying, he's the head of the snake. You take him out, this entire area might go under with him and all this organized crime. So I'm hoping, I'm not saying this is exactly what's going to happen. I'm hoping Sharon Carter's in deep undercover. Her mission that she chose to accept is to take out whoever this power broker is. All right. We want to get your thoughts. If you're watching this video right now, let us know what you think is going to happen in the finale. How has the season been going for you so far? Let us know in the comments below, or you can always send us a message on Facebook by clicking the send message button, or just send us an email on the contact page of our website at www.countdowncitycast.com. Finale this Friday. Can't wait. But also what I can't wait for is Mortal Kombat.
also this Friday.
Also this
This
Friday.
Friday.
I got my shirt
Yeah.
on order. I told Jericho he had an hour to order, so I don't know if he jumped on that.
Mine's in the mail, and next week we're going to be reviewing Mortal Kombat. So no spoilers over the weekend. Come back next week. We're going to be reviewing the hell out of it, and also probably in a separate episode we'll be also talking about the finale of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I feel like those are two separate episodes.
A lot going on.
The check's in the mail, by the way, Ted, for my 2 seats.
Sweet. 2 seats, he
He
says.
post-dated it. So
Post-dated, yeah. Don't cash it after that date. Before that date, bro.
There you go. There you go. We're going to get to some geeky weekly headlines before we end this episode. First of which is all about DC, and it's not a big story, but it's big to me. So the Flash film, the Flash movie starring Ezra Miller, Ben Affleck, Sasha Calle, and one Michael Keaton. Yes, the OG Batman Michael Keaton is underway. Production has officially started. We got the announcement from director Andrew Muschietti, and all the rumors were untrue. I don't know exactly why it came out like that, why Michael said the things that he said. It's probably just to cast doubt where there is none.
Of course. Get people talking.
But Michael Keaton is officially in the Flash film, and I've talked about why you would bring that guy back, and I hope I'm close or right about it. But I also want to drop the news, slight spoiler maybe, that on Instagram, part of the production crew are teasing the return of the '89 Batmobile. And oh my God, I cannot wait to see what that bad boy looks like. I hope it's upgraded to a certain extent. Give it some shine. I like the matte finish that it had before. Give it some gloss on some areas of the Batmobile. I think that'd be pretty epic.
I want to see what happened with that Batwing, that airplane. That was pretty badass in the first film.
Yeah,
it blew up. Joker shot it with
Joker
like
shot it,
he-
man.
I
10
wanna
foot.
But he can remake it. I want
with a
to
long
see.
handgun.
Yeah, he can remake it. A lot of times
That was
going
an
on.
epic handgun too, by the way.
I mean, he can. I'm just saying the one that we saw is like gone.
Yeah.
Which
But I'm
is
saying I
fine.
want to see what it, if he makes a new one or what. That's pretty cool. Batman's gadgets are always badass, Ted.
There you
Where did
go.
he get those wonderful toys?
Yep.
So listen, I'll probably just say it right now, and then I'm also going to make sure that because there's people on Twitter, they're still asking me like, I thought we're getting Flashpoint. What's going on? We
Patience,
are getting
people. Patience.
This is a Flash movie, and any big Flash story has the element of time travel and the repercussions of time travel in it. So we will get a version of Flashpoint. If you're expecting the comic adaptation of Flashpoint, you're not going to get it. Primarily because it's just too big of a story. You're talking about war between Atlantis and the Amazons, and you have like a version of Superman in it, and you have Aquaman and Wonder Woman, and there's way too many characters. It's a Justice League epic movie in its own right, and you don't have the room for that. So they can't do Flashpoint with all the moving pieces that
I mean, you're not even sure who's in the Justice League right now. So.
Yeah.
This is
what Justice
true.
League you are. So
This is very true. All of that is still yet to be seen. But we are going to get at least Ben Affleck one last time as Bruce Wayne. I hope it's not for the last time, but we are going to see him once again.
I don't think they'll tell us everything. I think they're going to keep a lot of this a surprise.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So
I agree.
Yeah.
And the last thing I want to say is I've said this before in the previous episode, and I'll say it now just to kind of get everybody updated on what my thoughts are about this. You don't bring Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne into the fold unless you have a story that Barry Allen screws with that timeline. I think that's why you do it. If you bring in Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne, you're bringing in the Burton universe. And there's like technically 4 movies in that universe because we have the same Alfred across all those movies, by the way. But Barry has to go back in time or through the space-time continuum or through alternate Earths. And he's going to land in this Burton universe where Michael Keaton was Batman, Michelle Pfeiffer was Selena Kyle, all that good stuff. I think the reason, not only because he's the OG, that's great in itself, but I think as a writer, if you bring in Michael Keaton, you need Barry to screw up that timeline. And I think you have to screw it up in a way where we know how damaging the after effects are.
First
and
of all,
if
he screws up the timeline enough to where Batman Forever and Batman and Robin are retcons, I think we don't have any problem with that.
Yeah.
You
Hey,
just
that
call
would be
Deadpool
meta.
for that.
That'd be
He's already
great.
doing it for the Green Lantern. So.
I mean,
That would be so meta, and the fans would love the hell out of
Just
it.
have Clooney and Kilmer show up and just like boom, boom.
Oh,
Oh man, I don't know if we want this version of Val Kilmer. He's looking pretty rough.
Like,
nowadays.
here's what I'm saying. If they screw that up and they retcon that, maybe we get Jim Carrey doing the good Riddler in the future DCU movie as a villain.
Yeah.
I'm just, throwing that out there. But hey, I don't think any fans would have a problem.
Schumacher cut of that too? Or?
Oh Lord, have mercy, dude. No.
There is, but you don't want to watch it. Trust me.
I think the fans would have no problem with him doing something post Batman Returns that retcons forever Batman and Robin, and we don't get holy rusted metal Batman.
Poor Joel Schumacher. Rest his soul, dude. Rest in peace, brother.
I thought you were going to say bat nipples. That's just what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
What I was getting at, Barry has to do something detrimental to that timeline, and Keaton only played Batman in two films, right? The first one and Batman Returns, and so we don't know a lot just in the cinema aspect. There's been comics probably that have gone on to continue those storylines, but we only have two movies to fall on when it comes to continuity, right? So there's not a whole lot you can change for the fans to say like, "Oh, Bear, you screwed up big time," but it has to be that level of big. So if you ask me, what could Barry screw up that would be very damaging to that timeline? I would go back to the original film, go back to the final scene where Joker's on that helicopter, and I would actually have Barry unknowingly or accidentally mess with that end sequence. Joker gets away. Batman still survives. I don't know if Kim Basinger would, but if you were to do something where Barry screws up those final moments of that conflict, and somehow Gotham goes on for a few years while Joker survives and wreaks havoc and everything, and Batman wasn't able to stop him in their first altercation, and it just went on from there, like that's huge. Fans would understand the ramifications of Jack Nicholson's Joker, probably like the most brutal of all the Jokers, mind you, getting away and like continuing his wrecking or his havoc on Gotham for many years.
I'll take it a step further. He goes back to that timeline and saves Bruce's parents, and Batman is never born in that timeline.
Wait! You're saying too much. Then we don't need Keaton, though, right?
Well, you do, but he's just a regular Bruce Wayne. Then
okay,
Joker's running rampant. All the other villains are coming out. Penguin obviously still going to come out. What happens?
I almost like your idea better.
Yeah. If you want some way to fuck it up, there you go.
Yeah.
Undo Batman. That's
JC had dropped an F-bomb, so you have to take a shot.
That's my one. Yeah.
If we undo Batman, we never get Nicholson as Joker, though. That's just one thing that you unravel.
That's true, unless he's just playing Jack Napier without the chemicals or something like that. But
sure.
I don't know. I mean, Teen Titans Go did it in the movie and ended up having to put it back for some reason. But who knows? Maybe there's a lot to theorize there. But
I just noticed that my bottle of Angel's Envy is getting a little low there. I think my son's been hitting the bottle.
Uh-oh.
I'm looking at it right now. I'm like, look at this boy's already hit my Jameson. He's already got into my Buffalo Trace. Now he's hitting my Angel's Envy. He's already about to build deep in OME whiskey.
Your kids were stealing your alcohol. I noticed my kids were secretly stealing my gluten-free Oreos. I happened to discover that.
Dude.
I mean, you can't blame
them. Don't touch the Oreos.
I can't, but I have to put them on the top shelf now because I wondered, how are these suckers disappearing so quickly when I'm only in like one a day and Tina's only having once a week? And then I confirm, hey, have you been eating my Oreos? And she immediately points to her brother.
I mean, yes.
So,
that's
my son's 14, and I still put stuff on the top shelf so he doesn't find it.
I know, Mike. That's your goddaughter.
But you're getting old now, Ted. So you're gonna forget where you put it too.
Anyway, back to this. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that can go with this. I mean, even then, it may not even be the original film. They could do something to retcon Batman Returns, and Penguin gets away with what he was doing, killing all the firstborns and everything like that. So there's a lot that can go with this, but yeah.
And before someone says something like, why would they do that? Why would they mess with an old film? Spider-Man 3 is going to do the same things.
Yes.
When you bring in Doc Ock and all those other things, they're not going to just bring in those villains from other films, other Spider-Man universes all willy-nilly. They're bringing them out from those movies, those moments, those scenes that we all know and love, because we are invested in those things. And before you say no, Alfred Molina is already dropping all
I know,
leaks
but that's
about
what I'm
all
about to
this.
say. He's not saying, but his quote was, "It continues from the end." Not that it goes back and necessarily messes with scenes earlier in the movie.
But if they will save Doc Ock at the end of Spider-Man 2. You are essentially ruining, you're essentially changing the events of the movie when you save the villain in those moments.
Well,
but that's the end, and no one cares if you mess up the third one because things just took a dive in that one. So
that universe ended after Spider-Man 2. We never even got Spider-Man
again.
3.
If it retcons Spider-Man 3, the fans will be happy. But here's the thing. He's saying it continues on from where his character dies or at the end of 2, but it's after he's already been redeemed. So even if Doc Ock lives, is he really still a villain?
Or does it though? What if we don't get to that moment? There is a moment that Alfred Molina has that changes his character arc. If we actually plant ourselves before that moment, we undo that arc change. We undo him.
So New York is
good.
destroyed in that world. Is that what you
I think y'all need to be careful
getting too
about
deep into this
what
stuff,
you're
man.
expecting out of these two movies that are very similar. Both the Flash movie and the Spider-Man 3, because they're obviously doing very similar things.
Yeah.
Right? They're going out to and bringing in characters from other versions of these movies. And from other Marvel and DC things, but I would just be careful to. I mean, it's more to your expectations, I guess.
Yeah.
But the level of how much they're a part of the story, what it actually affects, does it change things? Don't forget, in the end, Flash movie is about Flash, right? It's his movie in the end. Spider-Man 3 in the end is about Tom Holland, and his Spider-Man character. So as much as they're going to bring these in and get some multiverse stuff going, I would just say, be careful about expecting these huge grand arcs for these guys. And don't forget that in the end, it's really about the people whose names are on the movie.
Oh, yeah,
and not that these things can't happen, but, what you expect or what you're hoping for, don't get yourself too worked up about it.
It's wishful thinking on some end.
It's not even that.
Sure.
If it's not even that, if you're a writer and your job is to integrate characters that we've already met from years ago, you can either give us a new version of that character we've never seen before. Definitely a possibility. But I think there's much more at stake when you introduce characters we already know. We already know Michael Keaton from the '89 film, from Batman Returns. So if you pull Bruce Wayne from one of those two films, from a scene, from an event in those movies, then we know where that mindset's at. We know a lot about that character. We already know that stuff. And you already have investment from fans because we know all of that stuff. If we were to stop Alfred Molina's Doc Ock from having that revelation at the end of Spider-Man 2, and we never see that change, how much are you invested knowing that they've screwed up this ending? And if it doesn't happen,
like they said, it wouldn't matter because then New York City exploded because he didn't drown the core of that sun thing, that whatever it was.
Yeah.
True.
So if we do stop him from that, then boom.
Yeah, it was fusion energy. That's what it was.
Either way, we don't get Spider-Man 3, so it's a win.
So it's a win-win.
I would have liked him to
you
blow
go.
up the city just so I wouldn't have to see Tobey Maguire, or not Tobey Maguire, but Topher Grace
Ooh, yeah.
as Venom.
Yeah.
That was awful.
Ultimately,
worst.
my hope for No Way Home is that if they're exploring the multiverse on some level, they bring in Tom Hardy's Venom, or at least make a reference that they have plans to kind of eventually bring this in.
I don't know, bro. We're gonna have to see what that second
I'm with
movie's
Joe,
like.
man. I need a better outing out of Tom Hardy and that whole movie.
Yeah, boys,
when they put
preach,
Carnage
Mike,
in,
preach.
It's a different thing. So.
Preach.
Listen, it's not perfect, but it's leagues ahead of Topher Grace.
It was a stinker. It was a stinker in its own right.
Leagues ahead of Topher Grace, my
Topher
friend.
Grace. Yeah.
All right.
Come on.
We're moving on. We're just gonna do the quick rundown, rapid fire for the end of the show. Let's see here. First of which, Olivia Colman is now in talks to join Marvel Studios' Secret Invasion project. I'm watching The Crown right now. I'm on season 4. Olivia is like top tier, baby. Like there's very few names I put above her right now. She's just such a huge name in Hollywood.
They
But
better
Secret
deliver on
Invasion-
Secret Wars, Ted, because I don't want to have another Inhumans incident.
Trust me, you don't screw up when you bring in Olivia Colman. So I'm giving them the benefit of a doubt for right now. But that's going to be on Disney Plus. We also need to wish a happy birthday to one Hayden Christensen. He's only 40. He's only 40, and he's going to be back.
Thank you
to
for
the
saying
Kenobi
only. I
series.
do appreciate
Ripe
that.
old age
Only
of 40.
You're a young man, sir. You're a
40,
young
I
man.
appreciate it.
40
Yeah.
is the new 20, JC.
Yeah. Thank
He's
you.
going to be back in the Kenobi series, and no
Can't wait.
expectations there. If you just bring him back, it's a win for me, and I hope they bring him back for some good moments. Let's see here. Castlevania, the final season of Netflix anime Castlevania series drops on May 13th. If you have not started it, you need to go back and watch the first few seasons because it is extremely well done, from the dialogue to the animation style to the fight sequences to just the emotion and everything in between. Castlevania is one of the best animated series on Netflix that I've ever seen.
I gotta check that out again because I stopped watching it
Please.
because I got invested
I
in
need to
this
catch up, yeah.
horrible anime that I started watching on Netflix called Drifting Dragons. It's not so great, but I'm already invested, so I got to find out how it ends. You know how that goes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Let's see here. I've talked about The Warrior on HBO Max, which also features Joe Taslim, who's playing Sub-Zero in the Mortal Kombat movie. The Warrior is coming back for another season. Its third season will be on HBO Max. Make sure you go back, watch season 1 and watch season 2. It's my new favorite series. The fight choreography is second to none. I think it's one of the best choreographed martial arts shows that I've ever seen. A trailer dropped for Fast and Furious 9. We're not going to talk about it.
Man.
If you want to watch it, head on over to our Facebook page.
We still don't see Dom's brother, though. That's the crazy part. I still haven't seen Dom's brother.
I don't know why
You
they don't
can't see
reveal it,
me.
man.
You can't see
I don't
me.
know.
Some awesome news. Gabriel Luna joins HBO's series The Last of Us as Tommy Miller alongside Pedro Pascal. We got Pedro Pascal and we got Gabriel Luna in The Last of Us series. I'm stoked. Like, it doesn't even matter what they say. Bella Ramsey's in it. This is already a win right here. So
yeah, that sounds awesome.
It's freaking awesome. I am so excited. I really hope they get that show into production and out really quickly. Lastly, unbeknownst to Simon Liu, the legend, the Shang-Chi trailer and the Legend of the Ten Rings dropped this morning. He actually thought it was going to drop in a couple of weeks. It's like Marvel not to tell their lead characters and lead actors anything. So they released it. He was like, wait, what?
I think the date got lost in translation a little bit here. Maybe they just kind of missed something.
They treat him just like how they treat Tom Holland, how they treat everybody else except for Robert Downey Jr. You tell Robert Downey Jr. everything, but you don't have to tell anybody else squat. So the trailer dropped this morning. If you want to check it out, head on over to our Facebook page. Mike, you're probably one of the biggest MCU fans on this dais here. What did you think about the trailer for Shang-Chi?
Looked really awesome. You know, I like that they're finally bringing back the 10 rings. You know, they teased it in Iron Man 1 at the beginning, and then they you know, I know he sent some messages and Twitter stuff about it, but they try to pull like a twist in Iron Man 3, and I think it just fell flat for most people.
Trevor.
With the Mandalorian not actually being there, but a lot of people don't know that they tried to save it afterwards, and there's a one shot with what's the actor's name, Ben Kingsley, in prison playing his character, where he gets visited by a film crew to interview him about playing this character, and then you basically find out he's from the Ten Rings, and they're kidnapping him because the actual Mandalorian
Mandarin
is upset, or the Mandarin. Sorry,
You said that the first time. I'm like,
okay.
I was going with it, Ted.
This is the
it's
way.
all good. It's all
This is the
good.
way to the Ten Rings.
The actual Mandarin was upset that he tried to portray him in the real world.
Yep.
So they basically break him out of jail to go face him. I hope they at least reference that or bring that in a bit. But and it looks like Shang-Chi is his son, kind of is what I got out of that. So that should be really cool. The 10 rings seem to be bracelets instead of like what in the comics of actual rings. So it just looks really awesome. It looks like it's going to have amazing, martial arts choreography and fight scenes.
Yeah.
Something that the last time they tried this with Netflix, Iron Fist, they just couldn't pull off in that first season that well. So hopefully with the big budget and all of Marvel behind it, it looks like we're going to get some amazing things. And this kind of reminds me of Doctor Strange in that it seems like it's going to be his story first. We're not really sure of the timeline. Like, we were kind of trying to figure out where this might be. But then by the time he shows up in team-up movies, he's even more powerful in his mastery of what he's got. And, does he wind up with the 10 rings, or what does that deal with? We'll see. But it just for a teaser trailer, it looked awesome. Like, I'm really looking forward to it.
If you had to guess, is this taking place pre-Infinity War?
I think it's taking place afterwards.
I think it's pre.
I think it's after, dude.
See, I was starting to think that a bit, but I did see someone online say, what if this is during the 5 years of the blip? And because in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, a lot of what they were saying is that some places actually did prosper with half the people gone, resources, were better allocated. Some places were doing really well. And that was one thing the Flag Smashers were upset that when everyone came back, they kind of pushed them back out, pushed people out from countries because all these new people came back. So, by looking at it, it looks like a normal movie. Like, it looks like they're in San Francisco. Everyone's doing fine. So I would kind of think pre-blip because I would feel post-snap with everyone back, we're still dealing with those ramifications, even though I guess you didn't see it as much in Spider-Man either, which was supposed to be after everyone came back. But, so it'd be really interesting to see where the timeline actually does wind up lying.
Okay.
Joe, you got 2 minutes. What do you think about the trailer, man?
Thought it was good. A lot of people don't know about Shang-Chi, but Shang-Chi is one of the best, or I guess, kung fu artists or martial arts people on the planet. So much so that he can hold his own against superhumans or super enhanced villains or even superheroes, because he has such a mastery over the martial arts. And not only that, but he has a mastery over chi itself, the energy, the life force that lives in every living being. I think we're going to see that come to light. And he also has these bracelets that can deflect bullets, and other projectiles. So I think it's going to be a really well done martial arts movie, kind of a harken back to the days of, like the Bruce Lee and the, Jackie Chan, eras, where it's very good choreography as far as the fight scenes and all that. I'm hopeful for this movie. It looks really good. Mandarin, we finally get that reference in the 10 rings and seeing what they can really do, because everybody sees the 10 rings, but they don't actually see them in use. And I think this might actually kind of be a segue where they can kind of introduce a little bit of a Doctor Strange element into it, because it deals with mysticism and the dark arts. So it'd be interesting how they spin it,
Yeah, I agree. You don't get a whole lot of the plot. You don't know who's after him and what's really going on. The last thing I'll kind of say is I'm going to keep looking for elements that are trying to give away this timeline. But just watching the trailer, it brings back so many different nostalgia feelings. Primarily, one of the ones was this like a fantasy martial arts film, like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. You get that one sequence in the middle where people are sort of floating, doing this acrobatic jumps in the air. Very Crouching Tiger to me. So it's going to be crazy to see like this movie go from those different aspects, or from one spectrum to another, kind of bending reality and showing us those things. I can't wait for it. I feel like either this year or in the last few years, you've had these Asian American led projects like Warrior, for example, that have just been crushing it. This week you have Mortal Kombat, which is probably going to be one of the biggest movies to feature mostly Asian American cast. And now you're going to have this Marvel film coming out September 3rd. So it's just a great time to seeing all this representation. And these are hardworking individuals giving it all they got on the big screen. I can't wait. It's going to be great. And it's Marvel, so it's going to be just fantastic.
One you didn't also mention was Raya and the Last Dragon is entirely an Asian voice cast as well.
There you go.
Really good movie too. So
there you go. Mulan, like the previous year, like it's been a really great time to see all these projects come to fruition, these live action projects. All right.
Cool.
And that'll do it for this episode of the Countdown to the Geekcast. Don't forget, next week we're going to be talking about the finale of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And we're also going to be dropping a review for Mortal Kombat on Facebook. You can also download our podcast in audio form on Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, and be sure to go drop a review for us on Apple. We would really appreciate that. For the Geekcast, my name is Steady. With me on this episode is the man, the myth, the legend. You know him as JC.
Thanks for watching and listening. Again, happy birthday, Superman, 83 years old. You still look pretty good at 83, I will say that much. And a little bit of comic. Did you guys know that New Mutants is now on HBO Max?
Already seen it.
Yeah,
Wow. Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, but
I saw it. It's you ain't missing much, dude. You got to watch it. It's free. It's free.
It's not as horrible as everyone seemed to make it out to be. It's not great, but it's not bad.
Yeah. It's a good rental. It's a good rental, but it's free.
It happened to pop up there, so I was like, "Hey, all right, cool." So
I do think that the whole the most interesting character in that whole thing is Magic. So check that out.
Cool. Yeah. Cool. That'll be something I watch. So
there you go. It's worth a watch, but I think after Marvel got the rights back to it, I think they might have enhanced it a little bit. I think it used to be really bad, and you can see that they actually improved it a little bit.
Some fixing, yeah.
Major fixing, because it was a stinker before.
So what you're saying is they didn't CGI a mustache. We're good. Got it.
No.
There you go.
All right.
We also got the man behind the magic, the one and only Joe Garcia.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching. Like always, we can't do this without y'all's support. So make sure you subscribe, follow us on social medias, and like us on our Facebook page as well. We greatly appreciate it.
There you go. And last but never the least, you could find him talking about wrestling tomorrow night on the WrestleCast. It's the one and only Mike.
That's right. Thanks, guys. Always appreciate a chance to be on here. I love talking geek stuff, especially the MCU movies. But yes, tomorrow night we're going to be live doing the WrestleCast. A little after 9, like JC said, a little after NXT goes off the air. So join us, and we can talk about how dumb WWE is for releasing all these great talent.
Well, Mike, some good news out of WWE, even though it might be kayfabe. Charlotte has been suspended indefinitely.
Oh, yeah, it's kayfabe.
It's kayfabe, but maybe she'll be off TV for a while, and that's always a good thing. As we like to see on the MC, on the
she needs a character change. It's just
on a positive note, the Spurs won. Hey.
Yay!
Spurs go.
So, let's go.
And on that note, have a good night, folks.
All right.
Adios.